Hello and welcome back. I've got a gardening update for you guys today. It seems that the deer like the herbs. So far they're leaving everything else alone. Our friend the raccoon has not been back, so I'm hoping that they leave all of the other vegetable plants alone. That's okay that they like the herbs. That's good. That's probably healthy for them. But what I think I could do if I want to is to dig those herbs back out and then replant them up closer in a portable bed up closer to our house, like on our back patio. And then I think they would leave them alone because they wouldn't come that close to the house. So right now that's where we're at with the gardening update. I know you all were waiting with bated breath to find out exactly how our deer salad bar was working out, and that's where we currently stand. So there you go, there's the gardening update. We are going to move right into our viewer quilts of the week. I have two quilt shares to share with you. The first one from Lori P. She says, "Hello, Corey and Nicole. A tree skirt was on my bucket list, and when I saw your Starberry fabric line, I knew it would be perfect. The pattern is Snow Crystal, a Deb Tucker design. I think the bigger pieces show off your fabrics beautifully. Look forward to your YouTube videos every Saturday. Love your fabrics and patterns. Thank you for all you do." What a perfect, happy tree skirt that is. I was trying to think if I've ever made a tree skirt, and I don't know that I have. But they always look so pretty tucked under those trees at the holidays, don't they? Next up from Teresa R. "Here's a recent quilted wall hanging I created for a friend serving at a ministry event. Almost all of the fabric is from scraps I had from Corey's Strawberry Jam and Sugar Creek lines. I am in the process of making a Beholden 2 with the original charm packs. I added just a tiny bit of orange, and of course the center cross is white. I don't remember the name of the fabric line I used for the binding. I learned a new skill in making this trapunto. I used this technique behind the white cross, and I even added a tiny bit of batting behind the heart on the white cross. I so look forward to your weekly videos and really appreciate your heartfelt care in taking us through new projects and ideas." So another great, fun project. Thank you so much, ladies, for sending those photos in to share with everybody. Those are always so much fun to see. Before I go into a couple of fun viewer questions, I wanted to make sure, those of you who are waiting for the pouch tutorial, part 2 from last week, there's a good chance that that is going to get pushed back to next week because as I was planning today's video, the more I thought about it, the more I think if we do 2 tutorials today, we've got our Callie & Co mystery block tutorial, and then if we add another tutorial to this video, it's again going to be just too lengthy of a video. So I think probably part 2, unless this goes just magically fast and everything flies into place, I think part 2 is going to end up being next week. So hang tight. I promise it's coming. I'm not going to leave you guys stranded without part 2, but if you're waiting for that, my guess is that as this video gets filmed, we're going to push it back to next week. So now we're going to dive into those viewer questions. Up first from Barbara Marshall. "I have heard designers say I have something new coming, but I can't talk about it yet. Can you explain what this means and how much time ahead does Moda allow you to share about your new patterns or fabric lines?" So when we say something like that, it often is fabric related, but it could also be book related or maybe a magazine project. There are different things that we work on quite a bit in advance of when we can share before we're allowed to talk about it. So if it's fabric, which happens pretty often, fabric we can start sharing when the quilt shops start seeing the fabric from the sales rep. So when that starts happening, that's when we can start sharing about those fabrics. So typically we would be working on fabrics at about a year in advance of when shops see fabrics. So there's quite a bit of time we're not allowed to talk. And then the same kind of goes for patterns. With those, because they often feature fabrics that we're not allowed to talk about yet, we usually wait to share those until those fabrics start getting shown to shops. And the simple reason for that is that we don't want to share things and have customers wanting to purchase things that quilt shops have no idea are coming or in the works. So it helps streamline everything, not only for customers not having to wait as long to get their hands on fabrics, but then also for quilt shops not being inundated with customers wanting fabrics that they aren't even aware exist. So it just helps quilt shops out to do it that way. And also, sometimes we get a little impatient when we see something and we want it right away. So that way you guys don't have to wait as long until you can purchase those fabrics. Next up from Margaret Bergen, she says, I have always loved the panels you design. I missed out on the Sunny Side Up collection and was wondering if you plan on designing any similar panels to that one in the future. Also, do you decide when you want to design a panel, or does Moda decide when a line can have a panel? I'm looking forward to getting the A Bloom panel. Since we have been talking about the A Bloom panel so much recently, and I'm even going to be talking about it a little bit again today, I thought this question just tied in perfectly. The Sunny Side Up panel that I designed was the first panel that I ever designed with a fabric line, and it featured different quilt blocks and then little sayings, cute little sayings that you could then cut apart and incorporate into your quilt projects. I don't have another one in the works like that one right now. I can't say if and when I'll have another one coming up. I have always decided when I wanted to have a panel in my fabric lines. Sometimes it just seems to fit really well with the collection, and so I'll add it in. Or if I have kind of a fun idea, like the A Bloom panel, we'll be talking about my Moda Blockheads blocks here in just a bit. So the A Bloom panel just worked so nicely with the A Bloom fabric line, so I added that into the mix. So it just depends on if something seems like it flows well with the fabric line and if it's something that seems like it would be fun to design to work with the fabrics. I think that answered your questions. If any of you have other questions similar to these, fabric related, design process related, those sorts of things, you can leave those in the comments. I've got that ongoing list going, and I just pull from there here and there when I want to take some time to answer those viewer questions. So let's just go ahead and talk about those Moda Blockheads blocks now. I have made 2 for this week. First up, this little fella here, this is the Cat's Cradle block. It's brought to us by Kylie Ferrens of Kylie's Quilt Room. And this was the first time that I have made half square rectangles, which is something I've been wanting to try. I've just never gotten around to doing it. So I was glad to be coerced into having to make a half square rectangle block. And they went together really nicely. As I said, this was completely new to me. I followed the instructions here on the second page. This little section right here, getting things situated as they needed to be, took me a bit of time, but really just look at those diagrams and you'll be able to get those just fine. And then the trimming portion. For me, when I trimmed, my ruler did not sit exactly like, this looks so like parallel and tidy, and my ruler was skewed to get it to line up with these marked dots that they talk about that you'll be utilizing. So that was one thing that threw me off a little bit, but I just followed the instructions with my ruler just a little bit tilted, and it trimmed up really nicely. So I think that was the proper way to do things. And really it came together pretty nicely. I think my block turned out really cute. Glad to have tried the half square rectangles. And it's something that I will definitely use in the future. I actually have had a pattern mocked up for I bet a year that uses half square rectangles, and I've just never taken the time to write the pattern or make the blocks. And so doing these little guys gave me confidence. Yes, these are as simple as you thought that they might be, and you should get that pattern written. So these were fun. These are free patterns. If you're not familiar with Moda Blockheads, free patterns every week right now. And I will have this pattern linked in the description box if you want to make one of these little cute blocks by itself. One note, this block works really well on its own within a quilt. It creates a really interesting pattern across the whole design if you were to just use this block for an entire quilt. So, and then I also did my A Bloom panel. I just boarded it out. These are my alternate blocks for my quilt, and I love the way these two blocks look together. You might have noticed, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, my panel block kind of went with my pieced block that was released, and the same thing happened this week. So this sort of shape is very similar to this shape, and it just kind of makes me happy when things line up like that. So those are my 2 Moda Blockheads blocks for this week, and I'll keep you updated with those. So happy to be staying on top of these. In the summer months, sometimes I get into a little bit of a loss of sojo, one might say. I think this is something that we all experience from time to time, and I find that it hits me most in the summer, where I'd rather just be doing other things than sewing. So I'm really thankful thankful. I think I'm thankful for the projects that keep me accountable as much as I might want to put something on the back burner because I know that I'm going to be sharing, or I know that I need to get this made for a deadline. It does keep me on top of my projects, which I'm thankful for that, even if sometimes I'd rather be out working outside or maybe doing something a little bit different. Does it hit you guys in the summer a little bit too? I think I'm in the same camp as many of you. We just get busier in the summer. The weather's so nice. We've been cooped up maybe during the winter months and we're just ready to be out and about. That's what happens to me anyways. So got these done. And that brings us to our Callie & Co. block for today. So let me pull these goodies over here. This is the block we're making today. This is the one I made to test out my pattern using Tilda fabrics. I think it's just adorable. And now we are going to make one in Callie & Co. We got a reprieve from our half square triangles last month, but they are back in full force again today. So we are going to be making a bunch of half square triangles. That whole center portion is all half square triangles. Your skill set in making half square triangles should be improving as we go along if that's something that maybe hasn't been as strong of a skill in your quilt making skill set. I am sure that as we're working through these, you are getting better at making them. You're going to get some more practice today. I have my pattern printed out. These are free block patterns. If you're new to the Callie & Co. Mystery Block of the Month, you can print these out over on my blog. I've got not only this pattern linked below, but all of the patterns that have released so far. This is block number 6. We kicked things off in January. We will be wrapping things up the end of this year. I have also cut out all of my pieces according to what I need here for the pattern. I will tell you, if you have been following along exactly as I've been choosing my prints, I could not find the 3-inch prints, that would be my A prints, that I had cut previously. You know that I cut pretty much everything out in advance of making this project, and so I know I have my 3-inch squares somewhere. I could find my 2.5-inch squares, but the 3-inchers were nowhere to be found. So I cut extra squares today from my scraps left over from that Fat Eighth bundle. So if you are following along exactly, you might not be able to pull exactly what I have here because I have no idea what prints I still had left because I couldn't find them. I'm sure they will turn up as soon as I'm done filming this video as things go. But these are the prints that I'm going to be using. The first thing that we are going to do is make those half square triangles. This month, again, we are making extra half square triangles. So you are going to use 16 today. You will save 16 for an upcoming block. And I'll just go ahead and get my half square triangles made. 16 half square triangles are now complete. This is what they look like. I've laid them out according to the layout diagram here on page 2. All of these seams are pressed open just as they have been in previous months. And these pieces were my A and my E squares from the supplies needed here on the first page. Now these are ready to be sewn together just as we have in previous weeks. We'll sew the rows together individually. And then once we have sewn the rows together, pressed as illustrated, then we sew those together and press as shown. Here is our 8.5-inch center. And we are going to complete this just as we've done in weeks prior. We're going to add our white borders. This will be the F and the G. After we've added those, then we add our colorful borders. This is B and C. You see that here in step 2. And then once we've added all of these borders, we complete our block by adding our D stitch and flip corners. And here is our completed block 6 for the Callie & Co. Mystery Block of the Month. That's what it looks like on the front and then on the back. There's the Callie & Co. version and then the Tilda version, side by side. I'm still very much enjoying both versions of these blocks. I think there's so much to sew along with all of you. I always appreciate seeing your blocks over in the Coriander Quilts Facebook group. If you're just now stumbling on the block of the month, feel free to jump in. The patterns are free. All the instructions are still available over on the blog to print out. These that you see here every time I share these tutorials. If you have questions about adding those borders or those stitch and flip corners. I do talk about those in more detail towards the beginning of the monthly tutorials that I've been releasing. So you can find that information in earlier block tutorial releases. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will catch you again next time.